All right, everyone, the red light is on and we are recording. This is Mark back for another episode of the Veteran Semi-Professional. So today's an interview episode where I'm interviewing a veteran about their life and career after the military, all in an effort to help you if you're still trying to figure out what post-military life looks like. What can you do once you can put your hands back in your pockets, grow your hair out, and start wearing these things called civilian clothes? This is the show for you. Show you what are the options that are out there and how you might go about pursuing different career paths post-military. So I'm super pumped for today's guest. We've had two former uh, Israeli soldiers on the show to talk about their experience transition and everything. And today we got a Canadian. So uh, glad to get some of our allies on the show here as well. One, we served together overseas, and then additionally, two, I think it's important to show that some of these challenges that we have as veterans, re-entering back into military life. It's the same thing, same kind of problems and challenges for people all across the world. Whatever military you served in, it's a lot of the same stuff. And so I like having some foreign guests on here to kind of talk about that and normalize it for everyone else and help you feel that, the things you're going through aren't done in isolation. And a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds kind of had the same struggle. So Greg, if you can take a minute and just introduce yourself to everyone on the show, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark. And I'm really, I really love what you just said about the fact that you're not alone. As a veteran, as a transitioning service member, there's definitely other people who may have experienced similar challenges or have had a story that can help you. So, with that, thanks again for inviting me. I'm honored to be the first Canadian guest, so that's kind of cool. So, yeah, my name is Greg Potapenko. I live in Toronto, Canada, and I have been a Canadian Armed Forces reservist for 22 years now, and currently serving as a company sergeant major in the Reserve Infantry Unit, and got a rank of warrant officer. So on the civilian side, I have been running a digital marketing business and like an agency and an e-commerce brand for about 12 years now. So 10 years full time, and then a couple of years before that part time on the side, which is I think is going to be interesting for your audience there.
So have you been in the reserves your entire career?
Yes, for the most part, I did about a year of I guess you can call it active duty around 2004 or five when I was an instructor at infantry battle school, and then after that I came back to my reserve unit and been there ever since.
Awesome. So first, I think maybe I want to talk a bit about. Can you talk about some of the common problems that transitioning service members in Canada have after leaving the armed forces in Canada and going back into civilian life? Uh, I'm sure it's a lot of the same stuff we deal with, but I just want to talk about what are some of the challenges you see for the Canadian community?
Yeah, sure. So some of the things that I see, like on the I guess the personal side, is the challenge of translating your military experience and military skills into terms that civilians can understand, and basically like explaining your worth. And that's a common thread throughout. If you were just private for who did basic and got out, or you're a colonel who was commanding a regiment and then you got out after doing 20 25 years. A lot of folks do have that difficulty just basically figuring out how to communicate their value to employers and show their worth. On the I guess higher level, there are similar issues I'm guessing with support. So there are several organizations that are trying to support veterans and to transition, but again, same as the U.S. From what I'm hearing, it's kind of very fragmented, and these are like pockets of different organizations all trying to help, and it's not a coordinated fashion, and sometimes the veterans don't know about the availability of these programs. Like one cool thing I just learned about recently, and not all of my peers know about, is the Canadian, Veteran Affairs Canada. They have this educational scholarship for veterans, and similar to United States and Great Britain, it's mainly for post-secondary education or getting into a trade. But like what's unique about our system is that they got an amount of that money that can go towards like any sort of training that you want. So not just an accredited college or a trade school, but like you want to go and like listen to Tony Robbins or something, like you can do that.
Yeah, yeah,
So that's
yeah.
pretty cool.
That's super cool. I know that for our American listeners here, the GI Bill can absolutely be used. I mean, it's traditionally been used for post secondary education, getting a bachelor's degree or graduate degree or whatever. But I've talked to people who've used it to go to culinary school, to learn how to be a mountain guide, to learn how to fly. Really, anything that there's some type of like educational costs, and then there's some type of career benefit on the other side.
Mhm.
You can probably use the GI Bill for in some way. And so I appreciate you kind of giving us this insight, because some of the stuff you talked about, I mean, it's the same problems we have here for American veterans. And I just wanted to like put that out there, in that you're not alone, in that the things you're going through, a lot of veterans across the world kind of struggle with the same stuff. And I think it's just important to realize that the stress and everything you're feeling about the transition process, you're not unique in that, and that's okay. And I think that I find solace and benefit whenever I'm in a stressful situation or struggling with something, and knowing that other people have gone through this as well. And one, I can talk to them, learn from them, but it also just helps normalize it and make it feel like I'm not the only one struggling with this thing.
Yeah, for sure. And you don't have to figure everything out yourself. You can just ask someone who's been in your shoes a couple of years ago and just say, hey, how did you handle this? How did you tackle that? And like, oh, well, there's this organization that helps to do this, and there's that boot camp that can teach you to do that, and then you can kind of talk to this and this person who can get you into places.
So how did you get started into your entrepreneurial journey? Like what was the initial start of this look like for you?
Well, I mean, to roll the clock backwards, actually, as a teenager, I used to kind of like mess around and build websites just for fun. So I
Mm-hmm.
kind of knew that. And, that was like when I was 16, 17. I actually made a few $1,000 online in around like 98, 99, just placing, affiliate ads on my websites and,
Right.
spamming some bulletin boards to get traffic to those websites. So, I made a few grand, and that thing kind of stopped. And then I went and basically, joined the military, then went to university, got my degree, then did a year of instructing full time for the army, and then was looking for civilian jobs. I got a job in finance, like kind of like back office, like a lot of Excel stuff, and worked there for a year. Then I got into another company. It was the biggest gold mining company in the world at the time, and doing like project management and that kind of stuff for them for about 6 years. But around '07, I was about to have our first child, and real estate in Toronto is like super expensive. And I realized that I can't, even though I had technically two incomes, I had like my reserve earnings, and I worked my ass off. Like I would basically every weekend I was working, and still it wasn't enough. So I'm like, well, I got to figure out a way to make more money. And of course, I tried to apply for jobs and try to raise my salary. But as a young 20 something person with mostly military experience on his resume, that was difficult. And I have a few stories of talking to HR people and recruiters about, oh, you're a non-commissioned officer. What does it mean? You don't get paid? You don't get a commission? I'm like, no. um, but anyway, so basically, I stumbled upon this internet forum full of affiliate marketers, and basically, they were promoting financial products in United Kingdom using Google Ads to drive traffic to simple like lead generation websites. And I'm like, okay, well, I know how to build a website. I just need to figure out how to uh, this Google Ads thing, and basically started teaching myself that. Got some support from people on the forum, bought a couple of books, and then I lost $5,000. So that's normally where like you'd say, oh, this internet crap doesn't work and it's all a scam. But fortunately, because I had a background of working in Excel and finance, I was pretty good with data. Uh, I looked at my statistics and I found a couple of things that looked promising and basically doubled down on those. And in January, I actually made a profit of next year. And next year, I made like 13 grand on the side. And then the year after that, I made like 60 grand on the side. And I'm like, well, that's cool. And what happens if I do this full time? So eventually, I worked up enough courage and experience to quit my civilian job in 2011, 10 years ago and a bit, and start the full time marketing business.
Just a few terms that I want to highlight here for people who may not be familiar with them. First, can you just explain what affiliate marketing is?
Right. So affiliate marketing is a form of marketing where you get paid a commission based on results you generate. So it's uh, it's basically like being a commissioned salesperson except online, and you can either get paid a percentage of the sales you generate, or if you're promoting leads, that the client will agree to pay you a certain amount of money per every lead you bring in. When mobile apps came around, we started promoting mobile applications. So for each download, you would get a commission. Yeah, it's really just basically helping other people promote their products or services. And in this case, we're using online as the vehicle. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to like spell that out for people who may not be
Okay.
familiar with it. And I think whenever you see someone who says use my discount code or click this link or something like you're engaging with that. That's affiliate marketing. Okay, of they're working on the behalf of another brand to drive traffic to those people. Okay, and it's kind of the same
Yeah.
idea with lead generation of someone's trying to bring customers in. Very often they want to bring people in for like an initial consultation or something like that, and if you can drive people to them, then like they're willing to pay for that, because that's how you know they basically can like outsource their selling to other people to bring those leads in so that they can create business from that. That's just like the
Right.
down and dirty of how all that works. um,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good explanation. And another way of thinking about it is kind of like a paid referral program, if you will.
so what was the like what was the site or whatever that was actually like bringing people in to finding the affiliate links and like the lead generation? Like what was the hook to kind of bring people in?
I mean, when I just started, so it was very focused on that particular set of financial services for, out of all things, the UK market. And I was kind of marinating in that market for probably 2 or 3 years before I ventured outside and discovered other things. So, like initially, basically, it was a promise of like lower rates or better, faster service, like of getting a loan approved. And of course, you have to play within the left and right arc of the Financial Services
Right,
Authority.
right.
But essentially, yeah, I was basically creating this like brand out of nothing, like a kind of like a financial brokerage storefront, if you will, and just trying different hooks. And do you want a faster loan or easier application process or maybe lower rates? Like just trying different things and seeing what people resonate with. I mean, because we were using search, it was also like what's called high intent users. So there were people actively looking to get a loan. They were just shopping around, like, who do I get a
Right,
loan from?
right.
It's not the same as stopping somebody on Facebook when they're scrolling for cat photos and other things.
Although there's plenty of
Later
laughs to be
on,
had.
yeah, later on, I mean, we've promoted many different things like home services, like rooftop solar, HVAC installation. We tried. We also did a lot of software and app downloads, like I mentioned earlier. Then about 5 years ago, we started e-commerce. Like I said, I own a couple of e-commerce brands on Shopify, so that was a whole different box we opened up, and as well as doing services and consulting for clients, like looking at their website conversion rates and just kind of like a wider spectrum of services.
Yeah, I want to go back to, so you had said you
Mhm.
had kind of started off on this. You lost some money up front, and then you looked into your analytics and saw like, okay, there's some type of like bright spots in here. Can you talk like what those bright spots were, and why you decided to lean into those?
Sure. So the like you've done a very good job of explaining like a high level what affiliate marketing is, but like a subset of that was basically using paid traffic. So I'm actually paying for ads out of my own pocket to send clicks to an offer and try to get it to convert into a lead or a customer or a download or whatnot. And we're paid on each action that we generate, such as a download or lead. So it's like a subset of everything in affiliate marketing. Like somebody just giving somebody their Amazon associate link, they get a percentage of the sale. It's not a fixed amount, and they don't pay anything to get that click. They just their time. So it's somewhat different. So for someone who's paying for advertisements to send clicks to an offer, it's obviously very important to see how your money is spent, and that's why it's like if you're buying ads, you are also sometimes referred to as media buyer in the online world. But essentially, you got to be really good with data. You got to know where your advertising dollars are going, how they're spent, and then the results that they bring. And there's going to be pockets of performance, and there's going to be pockets of non-performance. So, like for instance, if you were to explain it in um, conventional terms, like you place a bunch of billboards, like you put it on a bus stop, put it on a bus, you put it in a subway car, and you put a billboard up. Uh, you don't know which one is going to bring sales, right? Whereas online, you can tag each of those ads and then see, okay, you know what? All of my customers are coming in from the ad I placed on the subway car, and all the other ads are not bringing me any customers. So then I can stop spending on those non-performing ads and only focus on placing more ads onto the subway and get more customers. So that's kind of in a nutshell how it would work online. So that's what I did to kind of get the initial um, small win and build on top of that.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's many, many more lessons that I learned after
Right,
that, but that
right,
was
right,
like the
right,
very
right,
first
right.
one, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like absolutely one of the beauties of online marketing is you can get great data on the impact you're having. Like you can see the conversion rate, you can see how quickly or how many people are clicking through whatever the ad is, as opposed to I might butcher the exact phrase here, but there was a famous marketer who said something like, we know we're losing 50% on our marketing every year. We just don't know which 50% because
Yeah.
you're putting up billboards and ads somewhere, and like it's easy to know. Okay, this is the thing that I have to do. This is how businesses advertise. But it's hard to know like how impactful that actually is. Like the data on that, it's harder to come by than it is online, where it's a very black and white kind of answers of here are the numbers directly related to how people are engaging with this stuff. So that's useful.
Yeah, and that was, by the way, David Ogilvy who said that. He was one of the forefathers of what's known as the modern direct response advertising, and I recommend buying his books. They're now advertising classics about kind of like Mad Men uh, era of advertising. It's really
What's
cool.
his name again? I actually never heard the name.
David Ogilvy.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
he's a Scottish fella who immigrated to the U.S. and started as a line cook in a hotel, and ended up one of the advertising moguls of the 20th century.
Oh,
Very
that's
very
awesome.
cool story. Yeah.
Yeah, gonna have to look into this guy some more. Um, okay, so you were working a fairly steady job, kind of decided to go out on your own and everything. At what point did you start bringing team members on, and like what did that look like and kind of feel like through that process? Because it sounded like at the initial stage it was just you.
Yeah, no, that's a very great question, and obviously, I was burning the candle at both ends. So, like, I had a young family, I had a full time civilian job. I was very active in the reserves. I was basically working for the unit and for the brigade battle school. So it's almost like double the normal workload of a reservist here in Canada. And I also I was also studying for a CFA exam for finance because I was trying to get into investment banking too.
Right.
So it was like a fighting on many fronts. Um, Thankfully, due to my military experience, and I had the fortitude and the grit and the physical fitness level to be able to withstand
Right.
operating on 3-4 hours of sleep a night. Um, and that's why I think a lot of military folks are cut out to be entrepreneurs because we're just more resilient and can withstand more. But with that said, at some point in time, yeah, definitely was doing too much alone, and I needed to bring in team members. And at least in affiliate marketing, because like the barriers to entry are fairly low, and it's it's easily copied. Like essentially, like you know, you don't control the entire like experience from start to finish, and you don't really own a brand per se. So it's kind of like you have this need to kind of like safeguard what you're doing. Like, oh, I don't want anybody to find out, and that prevents a lot of um, people from hiring. And then entrepreneurs typically also have a lot of other barriers, like, oh, what if they steal all my secrets? What if like anyway? So I think it was a couple of years before I actually hired someone. I think the first person I hired was a web developer, because up until then I was like, oh, I know how to build websites. I built my first websites in the 90s. Like, I know my shit. Like, I got to do it
Yeah.
myself. And then like I caught myself like trying to fix this like CSS bug that
Yeah.
took me like 4 hours, and I couldn't figure it out. And then I went on Fiverr and paid somebody $5, and they fixed it in 15 minutes. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I gotta hire somebody. So I hired somebody from the Philippines on Odesk at the time. Now it's Upwork for, I think, at the time it was like $3 an hour. I mean, now those rates are long gone, but essentially, that person stayed with me for a couple of years and started building web pages for me. Saved me a ton of time, and then you know I got more comfortable with getting help, freelancers. I had a physical team a couple of times, and I had to downsize, and I had an office twice here in Toronto, and then twice I got rid of it. So I've been experimenting with like all in person, all remote, hybrid. So right now I'm back to remote again.
Yeah, no, I think that's a few things that I'll highlight here for people. So if you've never heard of Fiverr, Fiverr and Upwork are two services. There's a couple other ones out there as well. There's kind of the two of the bigger ones where you can go find people for, I mean, really anything. You can find people to do advertising, to write stuff, for looking at your business plan, for looking at your resume for school, whatever it is. There's all kinds of people out there who are doing little side hustles, or even full-time agencies who are on those two sites. You can hire people at a really cheap rate to do very kind of small tasks. I've had the same experience in, my website's not super complicated, but there's been a few times where I've had some type of coding need, and I'm like, I don't know how to do this. And I could go through, I'm all about trying to figure things out myself sometimes. And like, you can find some great stuff on Google and YouTube. I'm like, okay, I could do that, and it's going to cost me hours and probably a lot of headache and a few gray hairs, and I'm probably going to screw it up. Or I can just pay someone a couple bucks and they can just do it for me. And yeah. Great lesson in that.
I mean, we can probably do a whole other episode on just freelancers, and there's definitely some caveats. Like you can get taken for a ride easily, and if you don't know like how long or how much certain things should be, like you're going to be more susceptible to being taken advantage of, right? So that's why, like, as an owner operator, initially when you learn how to do most or all of the jobs yourself, you kind of have an idea of like how long each thing should take roughly, and that's a little better for talking to potential contractors or whatnot. But yeah, definitely getting help is providing a lot of leverage, and just got to be a little bit careful. And there's techniques on how to safeguard yourself and do it effectively. But yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a really important lesson there of, I think, taking like at least a little bit of time to try out whatever it is yourself, so you can know then what to ask the person in the right way. Because, if you don't try, let's say it's like a small coding fix or something on whatever you're working on, you want to be able to at least like communicate to them, this is what I need. And some point of that, if you don't really know what it is, like, you got to get your elbows in there a little bit to kind of figure out the problem, to then be able to communicate it. Because again, it's very easy to get taken for a ride if you just say, I need this thing fixed. And they're like, well, great, cool. I can just go in there and just fix whatever, because they don't really know what to do. So there is some value in spending some time to figure it out yourself, so that then know how to communicate to someone else that you're hiring online. Can you talk a bit about, you've been in the reserves for a long time and like managing your own business and everything. Talk a bit about the bounce of serving in the reserves while also being an owner or operator of your own business?
Hmm. Yeah, no, I mean it's a subject that's like really near and dear to my heart. And like I said in the beginning, I was really, really dedicated and spent a lot of time in the military. And eventually, I started to switch the balance a little bit more into my business and my civilian life and family. Like I have 3 children now, and fortunately, like our unit and our system is very accommodating to your personal needs. So like a lot of soldiers are young students, so they have exams or something, they can take some time off or whatever. So um, in essence, it comes down to just prioritizing and managing time and making sure that I still need to work on my career progression. So like a number of courses that I had to take, I had to figure out how to get like a month or two of my time from away from the business in order to go away and get to the next level. But yeah, it just like everything, managing time properly and prioritizing, I would say.
Yeah, I think that prioritization is really key, because it's very easy. Talking to my friends who are in the reserves, who've been in the reserves, there's a lot of demands. It's not.
Mhm.
I know, especially for us here, especially if you're like in a leadership position or something, it's not the strict, 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year. There's a couple hours of work you got to do every week. There's still soldier problems that come up. There's still, times you got to go to the armory to do whatever. But you've got to be able to put lines around when is the time for me to do this, and like when do I want to focus on my family, when do I want to focus on my whatever my civilian career is.
Yeah.
It's hard to do all three perfectly, so one of them is probably gonna have to take a trade-off at some point or another.
Yeah, it's a sensitive subject because like when we did an exercise years ago in Fort Blanding, Florida, with Georgia National Guard, and we were basically had ranger instructors, and one of the rangers was like, "I don't know how you guys do this. Like, I can only be either always on or always off. Like,
Right.
I don't get it how you guys can be like civilians and then boom, you're now army people." So, and I definitely sometimes feel kind of guilty for, well, I could be doing more for my unit, but like I'm not pulling my weight. Like, there's definitely some of that thinking, but it also comes down to having a great team. Actually, like another thing that our schedule is not the same. Like we actually have soldiers work one night a week and then 1 week in a month on average, and then leadership has an additional night. So I, as a NCO, I usually am supposed to work 2 nights a week and then a week in a month, not including like concentration exercises or courses or
Right.
anything like that. And of course, there's always like email flying every day, like, oh, we need some
Sure.
guys for this party, or we need a few folks to do this, and so yeah, definitely it takes more time. But having a great team helps, and you have a second in command, or your like squad leaders, they're sorted out and they take the brunt of like their admin work, then your job becomes easier. So it's not all on you. Whereas in my business, like it's a little bit different, right? Like as a small team, small team CEO, you gotta coordinate a lot of things, and um, having a great team on the civilian side also helps. So that I can go away for that month and get my next rank. I can go away for that week and do that exercise and things of that nature.
Right. Right. Yeah, and I think it's super important to think about that, the people around you and how they can set you up for success on both sides of that equation. And I
Mhm.
think, talking to some people who are bouncing civilian careers and reserve, the people who have been able to do it best, have been upfront and honest with their chain of command in the military of, listen, like this is, I'm going to need priority during these times, or I'm going to need a block off here, or,
Mhm.
this is the time I really need to focus on my career here for the next couple of months or something. And generally I've heard and found that people are amenable to that, because those people are probably facing the same problems that you are. They're also trying to balance a civilian career and a military career and family and everything as well. And then, being open and honest also with your civilian job about these are my military requirements, and here's some time I need to block off to do whatever this. And it's important to just be upfront and honest with the people around you about those different competing priorities. So can you talk a bit about, where the business is now and what all you're doing?
Okay, yeah. So, like I said, started mostly in affiliate marketing, then branched out into also offering some of the agency services, so working for clients. And about 5 years ago, forayed into e-commerce, which means like selling physical goods to direct to consumer online. So right now, we still are doing some affiliate marketing, and we are also offering agency services primarily to other e-commerce sellers based on our lessons learned with email marketing and Google Ads. So those are like two core offers, and we can consult on like conversion rate optimization, how to improve your store. We don't do that work ourselves. I have a few partners that I can refer the web development work to. They're really excellent, but I can provide oversight and guidance and just general direction of where I think you should take your e-commerce store, your lead generation website. So those are kind of the core areas of the business right now.
Can you talk a bit about just getting, for someone out there who maybe has heard of Shopify? They're a Toronto-based company, correct?
They're based in Ottawa,
Ottawa, excuse me. Yeah.
but they do have huge offices in Toronto, and have been to those offices, and they have like two huge campuses, and they've been hiring and growing like crazy, right?
Yeah.
Shopify is just a platform that made it really, really easy to create a store online and sell something, deliver it, collect money, and have it all seamlessly tied together. Before, like when I was starting out, like in order for you to do something like that, you had to hire a coder, custom code everything, find a shopping cart, find a bank that will give you merchant processing, and figure out how to connect it all together. Like it's a huge undertaking, right? So what Shopify has done is streamline it. So now anybody with zero experience can start a store and be in business in just a couple of days. Like I have a couple of friends who started like small, beauty businesses, like basically um, on the spot. Within a few days, they were up and running, and it's really easy. They're not the only ones. I mean, there's other platforms like there's WooCommerce, which is WordPress based equivalent. There's like other things. There's click funnels, like you can probably see the plaque in the back. They're not the same as Shopify, but they basically also enable somebody with practically no coding experience or online experience to kind of visually put together a web page that can then sell something to a visitor and collect the money, collect an email address, and have it all seamlessly tied together.
No, I appreciate that overview. I've messed around with Shopify a little bit myself, and it's a very, very intuitive, easy to use platform. Okay, so if you're out there thinking of, I had this idea for this product I want to sell, or I know of a great product that I want to sell or something, Shopify is just a really easy way to get started. It's a very, very user friendly platform, and they have all the tools and everything you need. Whatever your query, how do I do this? One, it's probably on their website. There's some type of like how to do it. And there's a gazillion YouTube videos and articles out there that can walk you through how to do everything. So it's like a big enough of a company that, so many people are using. It's really easy to find information about how to get started. So if you're out there, have some idea of a product you want to sell, strongly encourage you to look into using Shopify, just because it's a very easy to use platform for sure.
That's right.
Yeah. So I know you're big on veteran entrepreneurship. Can you talk a little bit about what makes someone with military experience a good fit to pursue an entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, that's a awesome question, because I've been giving it a lot of thought, and I've tried to place myself into communities of other vetpreneurs. Like I'm in a few of veteran business Facebook groups and LinkedIn groups, and I've attended physical events, and I think it's a lot of different factors. So like, on the basic level, like I alluded earlier, it's your personal factors that you may have adopted throughout your service, such as being disciplined, knowing how to manage your time, how to operate under stress, how to operate on a few hours of sleep, and you know those are simple things that will enable you to just you know not crash on your couch after work and say, "Oh, I have no energy," but actually have the energy to pursue whatever goal you have set. Then, as we also talked, you have either been a follower or a leader, and you have been exposed to leadership techniques, albeit not always ideal, but that can help you lead teams and basically get them to accomplish a mission. So that's another huge asset that serving members and veterans have. Then another thing is we are always figuring out things on the fly. There's always this new weapon system or this new tactic that we have to learn in a short period of time. And like business is just like that, especially online business. Everything's moving so fast, like you have to learn on the fly, and like we're comfortable with that. And we know how to find information, conduct reconnaissance. That's huge, especially again in online business. Like you have to look at your competition and figure out what they're doing at all times, and that's your recon skills right there. Just applied a little different. And I could go on and on and on. It's funny because like you listen to some of these like productivity business gurus, and they're like, "Well, you got to wake up and drink like a glass of water in the morning because you're dehydrated." That's the business knowledge that they
Right.
pay. People pay to learn in the masterminds. I mean, something like that. It's second nature to us, right? Like you got to properly feed and hydrate and to stay operational, right? So some people don't know it. So like we have a lot of these things that we take for granted that a lot of people in the civilian worlds are either not taught or it's not second nature to them or whatever. Even a simple thing as waking up on time and drinking some water so that
Right.
you're not all foggy, right?
Yeah, I think there's something really important in that aspect of how quickly veterans can learn things. Like we have to adapt on the fly all the time with all kinds of stuff, whether it's, getting a new weapon or a last change to a mission or like a last second change to a mission, or, you show up somewhere and you're expecting, these facilities or this equipment or something, and you show up and it's not there and you got to adjust. And, every entrepreneur I talk to, at some point, there's so many aspects of the journey that you're not expecting something. You don't know what you don't know. And there are things going to pop up that you're like, oh, I got to learn how to do this now or something. And vets are just great, I think, at navigating those situations and being comfortable with the uncertainty of it. Okay, here's my next. Okay, I now learned that I got to do this. Here's my next objective. Let me research this, tackle it down, delegate it out to someone else, manage my team around whatever this problem is. And that's just stuff that's just been put into us. And it's just more second nature of, okay, here's our problem. Let's go find a solution and work around it. And I think that's a great point about what can make us successful entrepreneurs.
Yeah, like we're all action takers. It's just we need to remind ourselves about that and dig in and find it again if it has been lost or forgotten. On the flip side, a rude awakening for myself was that when you're working with civilians, that they're not troops, they're not necessarily as you know they're motivated differently, they operate
Right.
differently. There's obviously other high performers like professional athletes or first
Sure.
responders or this I worked in mining. They're like really really tough people too, right?
Yeah.
But in general, yeah, there's some things that you cannot take for granted that you bring from the military, especially in the teams environment, into a civilian teams environment. So, I think Jocko does a great job on laying it all out, and
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
really.
Yeah. If anyone out there knows Jocko and can get me an in to get him on the podcast, would love that to happen somehow. All right. Well, Greg, we're kind of winding down to the last few minutes of the show here. So in a minute, I just want to pass it back over to you, just provide any last thoughts, words of wisdom to the audience. But before I do, there's a question I always ask my guests, and that's you reflect back over your long service in the Canadian military. What are the best and or worst chow halls you ever ate at?
Oh, the best are always the Air Force ones. So like when I did
Oh
my
no, it's always the Air Force. They always do well. Yeah.
yeah, when I did my para course in Trenton, Ontario, like that kitchen was top notch for sure. Um, the worst, I mean, who I don't want to. I don't want to put you guys on the spot, but I think the ones in the states were like pretty, compared to ours is a little basic, but I mean they're still good. It's just they're a little more basic. But in general,
Yeah.
like anytime you eat in a chow hole, it's a good day because otherwise, yeah, I'm trying to swallow like coffee with my cold water and
Right. Right. Right.
I'm
Right.
just under a hoochie somewhere. So any day in a
I've
chow hole is a good day.
Yeah, yeah. I've not been above making a little tobacco pouch of some instant coffee grinds to keep myself awake at some point. Totally a viable option that's out there. Well, Greg, thank you so much for coming on the show. I just want to pass it back over to you for parting thoughts to the crowd as they're trying to figure out, what their post military life looks like.
Yeah, the parting thoughts would be to I'd say realize your strengths, um, try to articulate them first of all to yourself, and then make a plan, figure out how you are going to execute the plan, and then go ahead and execute the plan. And don't be shy to ask for help, whether mentorship, coaching, joining an association, or something. Like there's tons of people who are willing to help, who have been there, done that, and can offer advice. So definitely, you're not alone.
Yeah, I absolutely echo that. The veteran network in particular is extremely powerful. And I know anyone that I've ever reached out to, whatever service or even across borders here, who wants to people want to help. Okay. And those bonds of service don't end the moment you take the uniform off. If anything, I think they often grow stronger, and a lot of those like barriers that we had in our way sometimes of whether it's Air Force or Navy or whatever, or something like that, just go away because vets just want to help vets. That's I've consistently found that to be true and accurate. Well, Greg, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate your time today. If people want to find out more about you, where can they find out more about you?
Yeah, sure. So, personally, I'm on all the major social media. So you can find me on LinkedIn or Facebook as Greg Potapenko. Find me on Instagram also with the first and last name, or the handle is HHour48. And if you want to look at my business agency website, it's h-hour.agency. So I'm sure folks in the audience will appreciate the name. And that's where you can find out about some of the agency services we provide.
Fantastic. Well, Greg, thank you for coming on the show. Appreciate your time and enjoy your weekend. Okay.
Yes, thank you very much.